What's happening, people? How are you doing? And welcome back to a new video. With the January transfer window upon us now, and with Charlton's fairly lacklustrous performances and results recently, I thought this would be the perfect time to discuss what do the Addicts need to do in the upcoming January transfer window. We're going to be talking about areas of the pitch that we need to strengthen. We're going to be talking about players that we've been linked with and some players that could well be out of the door in this window. It's going to be an interesting one, a lot to debate. I've got my hot chocolate at hand, so without any further hesitation, let's dive straight into this video.
Hurry the fuck up!
I've just spilled that all over me, you absolute pillock.
So I guess we'll start off with where I think the club needs to strengthen in January. And I think most Charlton fans will be in agreement with me when I say it's fairly simple where we need to be strengthening. I think that the main areas we need to be improving in January is in the defence and up front. We need a new centre-back and we need a striker quite badly. As I said in my previous video, in my rant of the game against Plymouth Argyle, I stated that they were the two areas that I think that we desperately needed, and I also stated that we could potentially look to sign a new midfielder and a new winger if Bowyer wanted to. I know Bowyer's been saying in the press recently that we need to focus on our attack and we're not taking our chances, but I think he's just got his rose-tinted glasses on with that, and he's not realising how bad the defence is at the moment. I mean, we've got Darren Pratley playing at centre-back, for God's sake, and against Plymouth Argyle, as I said in the reaction to that game, we were playing players all over the shop. We had Pratley at centre-back when we had Oshilaja on the bench. We had Matthews playing right-back who couldn't swing a ball in with his left foot to save his life. When the left-back we had, Ian Markson, was playing in midfield, when we had 4 potential midfielders available to us to play. With that calamitous and bizarre lineup, you could definitely tell that we need defensive reinforcements. If we have a centre-back available, we play a centre-back in that position, and we've got Oshilaja there. So Oshilaja simply has to play over Pratley, but Bowyer in the South London press after that game said that he has no intention of changing that, which is it's a concern. So with all those factors, a centre-back is badly needed. And then in terms of the striker department, which is where Bowyer does understand areas need to improve and the area that he seems absolutely focused on at the moment, I do make him right. We do need a striker. If you take a look at our 4 strikers at the moment, Connor Washington, Chuks Aneke, Omar Bogle and Paul Smith, all together, collectively, they have scored 15 goals. As much as Washington and Aneke having 6 goals each is considered to be okay, it's considered to be decent, the reality is we need players to be scoring on a regular basis. And to be totally honest with you, Connor Washington, as I said in the previous video, the only thing I've seen him do well in recent weeks is scoring against Wimbledon. I haven't really seen him do anything. He's been fairly non-existent. And in Chuks Aneke's case, he is an impact player, and I think that's all but been confirmed now. Every time he has started games, and Charlton fans have been crying out for him to start games, he doesn't offer us anything. As for Omar Bogle and Paul Smith, there is question marks as to whether they are good enough to start games. It is very clear that another attacking option is badly needed. I just wish that Bowyer would wake up and smell the coffee and realise that our defence also needs improving. So now let's get into some players that we have been linked with in January. Now, in terms of our striker, it has pretty much been confirmed who that's going to be. Over the last couple of weeks, one name has been flying about the place constantly, and that is, of course, FC Midfield striker Ronnie Schwartz. So Charlton did go in for Schwartz in the summer transfer window. Unfortunately, the deal fell through, and since then, Schwartz has been exempt from the Midfield team. He has not played a single game of football for them this season, and he's been training with the under-23. So that all but tells me that Schwartz is going to be offloaded by the Danish outlet. And at our 5-2 win over Wimbledon, Schwartz was pictured next to Thomas Sandgaard at the game. So that has pretty much all but confirmed that we are not only going back in for Schwartz, but may well have the deal done already. He does have a good goal-scoring record, but not a lot of the fan base, including myself, aren't that keen on it. If you take a look at Schwartz's career, he has spent the vast majority of it in the Danish division, and he does have a very good record there. Between 2011 to 2014, he was with Randers or Raunders, I don't know how you say their name. In 92 appearances, he scored 44 goals, which is a pretty damn decent return. In 2018, he had a spell with Sarpsborg in the Norwegian division, 17 appearances, 8 goals. Again, not a bad return. He then moved back to Denmark with Silkeborg in the second Danish division, 27 games for Silkeborg, 25 goals. Absolutely ridiculous return that season, absolutely unbelievable. And that helped them get promoted to the Superliga, and he bagged 12 in 21 for them that season. So in total, 48 appearances, 37 goals, which is, it's a bloody good return. I mean, we have to be honest, it's a bloody good return. And that impressive spell with Silkeborg earned him his move to Midfield, where he scored 6 goals in 15 appearances. Helped them win the Danish First Division, a title which at the moment they look set to retain, and also helped them achieve Champions League football for the first time in their history. So judging by those stats, you have to say it's a pretty good goal record. He's played in leagues which aren't necessarily amazing, are they? And from what I've heard from Midtjylland fans and from clubs that he's played for, they've said that he doesn't really have much to his game other than being a poacher, other than getting in at the right place at the right time. Now, this ain't necessarily a bad thing, as we do have players that can provide the ball to Schwartz. The problem is, Schwartz will be under a lot of pressure if he is to come to Charlton, and he is very likely to come to Charlton, as he needs to be hitting the ground running just like that, because we do need a goal scorer. In all honesty, I'm not really that keen on Schwartz, but then again, I've never seen him play, so he could well come wonders for us. But what I will say is that if we're looking at Schwartz, who is 31 years old, we have to consider another 31-year-old that has just become available after he was dismissed by a fellow League One club. And of course, I refer to Ched Evans. Now, a lot of you may be in disagreement with this one, as you might think, oh, he's passed. He was sacked by Fleetwood recently for disciplinary reasons. The true reason as to why has not yet been confirmed. But we have to say, Evans is a proven scorer at this level. He's the same age as Schwartz, and he has been bagging it in for Fleetwood for a couple of years now. He scored twice against us at the Valley in our 3-2 win over the Cods back in November. We'll see what happens in terms of the striker department. It does look like we're going to get Schwartz, but I think that if we are looking at Schwartz, we have to consider Evans. Now, as for the centre-back, we haven't really been linked with anyone recently. However, there has been one name that has been mentioned quite a lot of times in the Charlton fan base, and that is Stoke City's Liam Lindsay. Now, this one is an interesting one because Lindsay has had a pretty good record at this level, and we remember him from his time at Barnsley during their promotion-winning season in 2018-19. He and Ethan Pinnock helped Barnsley become the best defensive team in the division. They kept 21 clean sheets in total, I think, conceded only 39 goals. This impressive performances actually landed Lindsay in the Championship with Stoke alongside fellow Barnsley teammate Adam Davies. And to be totally honest with you, since his move there, it hasn't really worked out for him. He's played only 20 appearances for Stoke and hasn't featured at all this season. As a matter of fact, the games he has played in this season is with Stoke's under-23. It's very clear that Lindsay is not part of their plans for the future, and I would not be surprised at all if he is to be moved on in January. Now, Lindsay did receive interest in the summer from the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and Huddersfield, so if Charlton are to go in for Lindsay, he will be up against Championship clubs competing for his signature. As I say, we've not been linked with Lindsay. It's just a player that some Charlton fans would like us to sign, and I can definitely agree. He's still 25, so still relatively young and has a lot of years left in his career. Is a very, very good centre-back at this level from his time at Barnsley. If we are to go in for Lindsay, it's likely that we are going to be letting a centre-back go. And to be totally honest with you, the only candidate that I can see leaving us in the centre-back department for Lindsay to come in is Deji Oshilaja. And I spoke about this in the previous video. I said if Oshilaja is not going to be played in his natural position and Boya is going to be stubborn and play Pratley as centre-back when he shouldn't be, then we need to sell Deji and bring in someone like Lindsay that will improve us. And Lindsay will improve us. He will be a massive improvement on Oshilaja. Oshilaja, in my opinion, hasn't been good enough at his time with the football club, and I think it's probably best to move him on in January, and I do consider that as very likely, as Boya has mentioned that maybe we do need to improve defensively and bring in someone defensively. But with the wage caps in place at the moment in the league, the only way we're going to bring in players is if we sell players. So, and Boya has said we need players that are going to improve us. Lindsay is a prime example of improving our squad, and I think it would be a very good decision to sell Oshilaja off to another League One side, maybe even to a League Two club, and bringing in Lindsay from Stoke City, whether that be on a short-term loan or try and get him on a permanent basis with whatever budget that we may have. It may not even be Oshilaja that leaves in January, and this is going to be upsetting to say, but unfortunately, it may well be something to consider, because at the end of the day, we need players to come in now. We need quality players to come in now and improve us with the wage caps in place. And as I said, as unfortunate as it is, we may have to consider doing this, and that is terminating Famewo's loan. Now, of course, as we know, Famewo is out injured for another 7 to 8 weeks, so that takes him out of football probably until we're looking at probably the end of February, maybe the beginning of March. We need a centre-back now to come in and improve us. And as I said, I don't want Famewo to leave, because I think he has been absolutely fantastic. The fact is, though, it may well be something to consider. With the same thing last season with Buram Kayal, received quite a bad injury which he needs surgery for. It was reported that he was going to be back to fitness by February. The club took the decision to terminate his loan and bring in someone else that would be fully fit and someone that we needed. It's the same case here. We could well, or may have to consider terminating Famewo, as much as we wouldn't want that to happen. I don't think any Charlton fan would like that to happen, but it is something to consider. Now, in terms of the other two positions that I highlighted, midfielder and winger, I don't think that's going to be as much of a priority during the transfer window. It has been reported that Manchester United are set to recall Dylan Levitt from his loan at Charlton and send him elsewhere due to the lack of game time. And to be totally honest with you, I would take that happily, because let's be honest, although Levitt has not played all that many games for us this season, he started only 3 games, no appearances off the bench. He has been underwhelming. Nicky Butt made the claim when we signed him that he was the best passer at the club. In the 3 games we've seen him, he could barely string a pass together. His free kicks were terrible, and he's very much been underwhelming. That being said, he has missed the vast majority of the season after contracting COVID. To be fair to Levitt, I did hope that Bowyer would give him more game time. He would bring him on, because he is a young player who could bring something different to the team, some high energy. With Levitt not affecting the wage cap, we can then go back in for another Premier League youngster or a Championship or just any youngster in general and bring them in on loan on a short-term deal to give us some more option in the midfield, and hopefully they can break into our midfield, which, let's face it, has been shot to bits in recent weeks. And as for the winger, like last season with Aidan McGeady, I would consider a winger to be our bonus player. A player that we don't necessarily need, but a player that we can have to either fill the numbers or maybe a future prospect to build upon in the long term. A player that fills the latter is Sorba Thomas. Now, like Ronnie Schwartz, this was a player that we were linked with in the summer. Thomas is 21 years old, currently playing for Boreham Wood in the National League. And reportedly, Charlton offered a 6-figure sum. Boreham Wood then released a statement saying that they'd rejected that offer. And then not long after that, Sorba Thomas was placed on the transfer list by Boreham Wood, and he remains on there to date. Along with us, Portsmouth, Sunderland, Barnsley, QPR, Middlesbrough and Peterborough were all monitoring Thomas during the summer transfer windows. It could be very much the case that these 7 clubs, Charlton included, could go back in for Sorba in January. And Charlton have a good history of bringing in players from non-league and turning them into superstars. Ademola Lookman signed from Waterloo, Joe Aribo signed from Staines Town, Josh Davison, and also recently Macaulay Bonne came from Leyton Orient for 200 grand, sold 15 months later for 2 million. And I think Thomas would be the perfect next project for us. He's only 21. This season, in 10 games, he scored 3 goals for Boreham Wood. The season before, he scored 5 in 34. So judging by the stats, he looks set to beat his goal-scoring record from last season already. And as it was reported, we offered 150 grand. The maximum amount that we're going to have to pay for Sorba is probably somewhere around $250,000, maybe 300 grand, so double the amount that we offered last time. It's going to be interesting to see whether Charlton are going to go back in for him. As I say, I would consider a winger to be a bonus player, a player that we don't necessarily need, so we could use Thomas as a future prospect. So those are the areas of the pitch that I think we need to improve, and the players that we have been linked with or fans have suggested that we should sign. Now, while we're on the topic of January, we may as well talk about players that are likely to leave the club and some that are pretty much confirmed to be leaving us in January. Over the last day or so, it has been confirmed that Charlton will be allowing George Lapsley to leave the club on a free transfer next month. It had to be done, to be totally honest with you, because Lapsley, let's face it, was never going to get into our squad currently, I didn't think he was going to break into the midfield. And of course, it was his decision to go out on loan to Mansfield. He's gone to League Two, and it is a case of him finding his level, because he is absolutely killing it at the moment at League Two with Mansfield. Now, it was reported today that the club will be putting a sell-on clause in the deal for Lapsley. Lapsley is out of contract in the summer, so when we're looking to sell him, we're probably not going to get that much amount of money for him, or maybe any money at all. It could well be a pre-contract agreement. It is a shame that his Charlton career is ending this way. I do love Lapsley. I think he's a very good. I think he's a good player, and I do wish him all the best in his career. I do think he will still have a good career. With this news, I fully expect Erhan Öztürk to have the same fate. Of course, he is another player that is out of contract in the summer and has been loaned out to Bristol Rovers in a bid to get first-team game time. I would not be surprised whatsoever if we try and let him go on a permanent basis in January. He failed to live up to the nickname that he has himself, the Turkish Messi. It is definitely the right decision to move him on. There is another player that I would consider to be very likely to leave the club in January, and I'm judging this purely off the fact that they weren't involved in the squad against Plymouth on Boxing Day, and that is Ben Purrington. He was left out of the squad completely against the Pilgrims, with no explanation as to why. They said nothing about him receiving an injury, him receiving a niggle, or he's contracted COVID, or he's in isolation. Is it a sign that Purrington is being offloaded in January? And it will be interesting, because if Purrington is to go, we've only got one first choice left back, which is Ian Martson, who isn't even our player. I've seen this happen before. Players have been left out of the squad and they jump ship and they go. The same happened to Dylan Levitt. Levitt wasn't in the squad against Plymouth, and now there's reports saying that Levitt is being recalled. So it may well be the same case for Purrington. Is he being sold to give us some more funding so we can bring in new players? But if we are to sell Purrington, is it in Bowyer's plans to replace Purrington? So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and turn on those post notifications so you're notified of when I post. What do you guys think Charlton should do in January? Who should we sign? Who should we let go? What positions should we look to strengthen? Let me know in the comments below. This has been Tyler Rodinson. Have a nice day, and I will see you all on the 2nd of January when we take on Hull City. Massive game there. We need to be getting the victory. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.